Hello, my name is Jody, and thank you for tuning in this channel. I'm going to talk about today problems that people have when they are trying to strike a fire steel and get a fire started, get a fire going. And so this is the problem a lot of people have is they strike and they either don't get any spark or they get very little spark. And so I'm going to go over some of the science or physics behind how to get a good spark. Okay, the main reason that people cannot get a spark from their fire steel is because the striker they're using, whether it be a knife or whatever they're using, most people use the spine of their knife to do that with. And the reason why they cannot get a spark is because the spine of their knife is slightly rounded. The corners are rounded off. And what I did was I drew an enlarged view of the spine of a knife. And that very corner right there being this corner here. And the reason they can't get a spark is because that corner is so slightly rounded off that it's not peeling off any of the fire steel. And so a knife has to cut into that fire steel and take off material in order for it to create a spark. And so what we're going to do now is look at how to go about getting a good edge on the corner of on the corner of the spine of a knife. And so what we have here is a typical survival knife, and they already come. A Mora already comes with a spine with squared corners, and I've got a picture here of the squared, so you can see very clearly the difference between a rounded corner and a squared corner. So that is one of the biggest things. Now, when I'm sharpening a knife, okay, so you've got the edge sharpened. What I will do is I will lay the knife down flat on its side and give and go a few strokes, and then turn it over on the other side, a few strokes that way, and then I'll turn it on its spine and find that perfect area, that perfect spot where it's squared off, and then I'll run a few times down that. And what that's going to do is give a good, sharp, crisp, squared corner. And that, now you can go a step, that will work in getting a good spark. That'll work fine. But there's another step that you can go and get a lot more sparks out of with more ease. Less muscle, less effort, you can get sparks. So in a survival situation, your hands are freezing cold. It might be the difference between getting a fire started and not getting one. So and there's also another purpose I'll go over with the turning the burr. So now what I want to do now is I want to show you another picture, and it is. So these are the two things that must take place, or one of these things must take place to get a good spark, is a squared edge. The next thing is getting a burr on the edge of the knife. And if you see that exploded view there, that is a burr. And this is how you get a burr. You use something called a burnishing rod. And in woodworking, you use like the butt end of a drill bit because it's hardened. The hardest metal you can find laying around. However, a screwdriver, that rounded part of a screwdriver will work. Another thing that'll work is a fire steel. So if you don't have anything else, you can use a fire steel to do this. And that's what I'm going to do today, since I have a fire steel. It would be better if I used that drill bit, but I'm going to use the fire steel, and I'm going to show you how to get a good burr. In woodworking, we call this method of getting a burr created on the spine of a knife. We call it burnishing, and I'll show you in a minute how to do that. Okay, I'm gonna set the edge of my knife on something that is secure, so that I can put a lot of pressure on the edge of the knife. And I'm going to take my fire steel, or my burnishing rod in woodworking terms, and I'm going to put it on the edge of my knife, or on the flat surface of my knife, and then I'm going to angle it slightly so that I'm putting more pressure on the spine of the knife. So 1 or 2 degrees, 3 or 4 degrees is fine. Just angle it enough you get more pressure on the spine of the knife than you do the flat edge. And so what I'm going to do now is put a lot of down force, a lot of down pressure on the edge, on the spine, and then go back and forth kind of quick. And what it's going to do is cause a burr on the very edge of the spine. So here it goes. I'm going to angle it up and put a lot of pressure and go back and forth a couple of times. And that's all there is to it. I have just created a burr on the edge of this knife. So that's an exploded view of the burr, and I'm looking at the right side of the spine. And so this is what it looks like after you have turned the burr. So you see how the burr is on a different angle, and all that does is it makes it easier at different angles to scrape. In woodworking terms, we would use the word scrape. And so that makes it easier to, in different situations, to shave more wood with less effort. Okay, now to turn the burr, we've already made a burr on that corner. What I'm going to do now is on one side of the knife, and I'm going to use the side that I normally carve with, and that's my left hand because I'm left-handed. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to get all of it, but I'm going to get about half, maybe half of it. I'm going to start halfway through the length of the flat part of the spine, and I'm going to just turn that burr that I've already created. I'm going to turn it over, and we're going to do it by burnishing this edge right here, like that right there. What I just did was I turned that burr that was sticking up, I turned it over. Now the reason that I only turned the burr on half of the length of the spine is so that that I can use that area to scrape wood in order to create a pile to put my sparks into to start a fire with, the tinder. The reason I did half of it is so that I can use from the middle section over to that edge, that area right there, in scraping either the best thing to scrape is fat wood or pine lighter, and so you can create a pile to put the spark into. And the reason why I did not turn the burr, but I left the original burr that we made on the side, is so that this edge you can use on the fire steel, and you can use that edge from the middle over here as a striker, and then you can use from the middle to that edge to do the scraping. You can also not only can you can put a burr on this side or turn the burr on that side, you can do the other side as well. So you can utilize all of the surfaces of your spine to get a burr on, and so you can use it however you want to. If you change hands or whatever, happen to be like me and are ambidextrous, you can use both edges. And so I just wanted to kind of clarify why I only turned the burr half of the way up, is so that I have dual uses. And so that just makes a lot more sense to me to do it that way. I also want to add that if you purchase a fire starter, a fire steel, some of them will have a striker attached to them, and they're small. Sometimes they're kind of hard to use. So my preference is to not carry along a striker when I already have the best striker you can get on the spine of my knife at all times. And so if you choose to bring a striker with you that's attached to the fire steel you have, that's fine. But I know a lot of people like to streamline, carry less weight, and with this method you can serve two purposes. One of them is striking the fire steel and getting good heavy sparks, and to be able as well with the same tool to be able to shave off tinder in order to get that spark off the fire steel to ignite very easily into tinder, whether you're using pine or fat lighter, and so whatever you're using just makes it easier, less weight, and hope that helps. Well, my camera woman ran off, and so my 11-year-old daughter Phoebe was doing the filming. So wrapping it up now. Hope that you've learned something that will make it easier for you to process an edge and get a good shower of sparks. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next video.